Good morning, possibly good afternoon if you're joining us from the other side of the Atlantic. Good very early morning if you're joining us from anywhere west of where I am in icy cold Wisconsin. I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen. I'm the editor and VP of Streaming Media and the program chair for Streaming Media Connect. This is our 7th Streaming Media Connect virtual event. Thanks again so much for joining us. You know, at the beginning of each one of these virtual events, I have always said, we can't wait to see you in person next time, but here we are again. But this time I feel pretty darn good about saying we will see you, I hope, in Boston in May 24th and 25th for Streaming Media East in person. And we're all really looking forward to that. The programs for that and the Content Delivery Summit, which will be happening on Monday, May 23rd, will be going up online soon, and registration is already open for both of those. Go to streamingmedia.com/east. But in the meantime, we've got another great virtual event planned this week with more than 20 panels, as well as a terrific workshop on Friday called The Best Streaming Gear and How to Use It. You can still sign up for that workshop if you haven't yet. All of these panels and the workshops will be available on demand after we wrap things up on Friday as well. Also, just for being here, you're entered into a random drawing to win an Amazon gift card. We'll be announcing the winner of the gift card at the end of each session. And of course, you must be present to win. Once we announce the winner, we'll be sending an email out probably at the end of the week or early next week, letting you know how to claim your prize if you're a lucky winner. Before we jump in, just a couple of housekeeping notes. If you have questions for our keynoter this morning, please enter them in the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom window. I will be monitoring the questions and I will pose them to Shobana after her presentation. Also, we do have subtitles turned on. If you're seeing the subtitles and you want to turn them off, go to the bottom of your screen, go to live transcript and select disable transcript, and that turns them off. So with that, let's kick things off with our very first keynote of the week. First of all, I need to thank Shobana, our keynoter, for stepping in at the last minute when unfortunately our regularly scheduled keynote was unable to make it. Shobana Radhakrishnan leads Google TV engineering at Google, most recently leading the experience and personalization engineering for its launch on Chromecast in September 2020, followed by launches on Sony, TCL, and other devices last year. And of course, they're expanding to more devices all the time. Prior to this, she led teams that built high-scale publishing platforms, enabling personalization at Roku and video metadata platforms at Netflix. Her experience also includes engineering leadership roles in companies such as Symantec and Yahoo, as well as startups. Finally, Shobana is passionate about diversity in tech and inclusivity in consumer products and has worked on several events and initiatives around those issues. Shobana, welcome from very early West Coast. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Eric, for the introduction.
Thanks so much for joining us. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say about trends in OTT and particularly advertising and how the Google TV efforts fit into that. So with that, I'll pass things over to you and we'll come back for questions when you're done.
Awesome.
We seem to have lost Shobana's audio.
How's that? Are you able to hear me?
There you go. Yep, we got you.
Awesome. Excellent. First of all, what an exciting time to be participating in the streaming media and be part of the media ecosystem for all of us. There are so many exciting trends which have been happening over several years now, but so much more amplified also in some ways by COVID and users finding new ways of engaging with streaming and with TV. A lot of habits here to stay. Some habits may go back a little bit to pre-COVID world. And these trends, it's also amazing to see how these trends also vary across the global landscape. So the US versus other countries, other regions are also widely diverse. Not to mention demographic differences in how users are engaging with streaming services and TV. So overall, very fast-paced evolution constantly going on in this space. So we're all very, very fortunate to be part of this evolution. Let me start actually by talking a little bit about what Google TV, the product is. The media ecosystem and its evolution is something we constantly think about and observe so that we can provide the absolute best services we can to our users and our content providers who we are an important platform for. So Google TV as a product is what you get when you buy Chromecast, like Eric said, Chromecast or any other devices that have Google TV. You purchase them, take them home, turn it on, and the experience you get as soon as you turn it on is referred to as Google TV. So you can see in this a small screenshot here, and we'll see it closer later today. Is this immersive content experience where you turn the TV on and you can see content forward recommendations. And you also have the option of going into individual apps if that's your more familiar path. So that's what the core idea of Google TV is. So how was this idea to develop this product, Google TV, born? All of us can relate to that Friday evening moment, right? After a long work week. For many of us, especially pre-COVID, it was a long week of commute, coming home, trying to sit in your living room or family room on your couch in front of your TV, maybe with your significant other or your family, and just looking for something to watch and relax. And sometimes we spend 15, 20, or even longer, 15, 20 minutes or even longer, looking for something to watch. And in the end, we don't even find something to watch, or maybe we find something, but after 15 or 20 minutes of watching it, it's not quite the thing we were looking for. So the idea, the core user proposition for Google TV was, can we take some of this frustration and hard work out of the user's hands, just help them a little bit by bringing the content first to the screen directly, instead of a user going into individual apps, scrolling up and down, finding something, then coming out of the interface, finding another app, and so on. How can we find content that maybe the user may be interested in and save this hard, frustrating work when people just want to relax? And the other elements, as we observe the landscape, again, over the past several years, which we expect will continue in the coming years, the number of content providers and the ecosystem complexity continues to increase over time. And increasingly, users are expecting TV platforms or just streaming platforms to bring integrated content. So beyond the traditional movies and shows, people are looking for live content, sports, games, and many other kinds of interactive video over time. Being cognizant of all of these aspects, how do we bring that content at the same time? We all know there are thousands of content providers, millions of pieces of content. But how do we still keep the interface simple, transparent to the users, and personalized for them? And the other role that a platform like Google TV plays is, how do we find users and bring them to the content providers who the users may not find their content otherwise? So how do we bring the two entities close together? That's the role of a platform. And in addition to this, we've got to make sure that Google TV as a software, consumer software, works across all device ranges, all cost ranges, and for global audiences. So this is the core user value we wanted to provide from Google TV. And some market trends also to factor into this is, we are seeing that there is a steady decline in pay TV as a market. It continues to decline. And free ad-supported streaming television, also referred to as FAST, as well as AVOD services, are continuing to boom. So users and consumers are interested in looking for free content. They are okay with ad-supported free content, but they are interested in discovering these kinds of content. So we see a shift in content providers investing in AVOD and FAST in addition to the traditional VOD. So that's a fascinating trend that we're observing. And advertisers are catching on. So you see a shift in the ad buyers in terms of increased spending in TV streaming apps and services, and also shifting money into streaming from the traditional cable and broadcast, so that they can lean into consumers and reach consumers from all of these fronts. So we're seeing that pattern as well. Interestingly, abroad, the pay TV actually continues to increase. So it is a growing market internationally. And as I mentioned earlier, Google TV being the platform needs to be aware of these trends because we want to make sure that we are bringing the right product for the market based on how users and consumers are gravitating, what kinds of patterns they are gravitating. Another aspect is the demographic. You can see here when we compare to recent years that there is a much broader breadth of the demographic that is consuming streaming and video viewing. So you can see multiple age groups leaning in and increasingly engaging with the non-traditional, the streaming, and leading to a whopping 142 plus billion streaming minutes every week on average. So this is an amazing level of activity and engagement. And we'll see, as we'll see later today, these are not just traditional viewing. There are so many daily habits that are video and streaming based that much broader demographics are starting to lean into than ever before. So with that, the question arises as we think again about Google TV as a product, or it applies to all of us working in streaming media. How do we adopt global local strategies to capture these different trends in different countries, different age groups, and even the demographic distribution varies depending on the different countries because the viewing culture, the family setting, the behavioral culture of the audiences, everything is different in each country too. So it's really a very challenging problem to solve, but one that is that's very exciting to lean into and incorporate in a product. So the idea, the thought in Google TV was this simple vision. How do we bring a compelling, immersive, at the same time scalable, content-forward experience to consumers on TV? Again, remember the core premise, the Friday evening moment, as I call it, is let's just bring content to the users that they may like to engage and take the hard work of spending those tens of minutes just looking for content before they even engage. That can we help them in their journey? And so with all of these global trends, it needs to be compelling, but also scalable and diverse in how it assumes consumers will engage. So core approach and philosophy, we still believe that content is king. That has been true in TV in general, as well as streaming for a long time. But we also see that content, the definition of content is now becoming very diverse as we see these engagement trends. Again, the core thing, bring ease of use and delight to users and ensure that users always know themselves better than any system or software will. So let's make sure the users are able to give us both implicit and explicit signals about what they prefer, what's working for them, what's not, and we're constantly listening to users. And we also believe that quality and performance are critical. We all know this, when we sit in front of TV, we would just want it to work reliably. It needs to be quick. It needs to bring all kinds of video to a screen. Irrespective of the memory constraints, CPU constraints on the devices, it needs to play really well and really feel simple for the users. So all the hard work needs to go into designing it so that it feels easy to the users. And also data-centric analysis is core to really listening to users, again, as I mentioned, but also even to understand field metrics of how our systems are doing. So we're making sure that they are performant, they're working well, they're working reliably all the time. So a heavy amount of data-centric approach goes into thinking about features, designing features, receiving and processing user feedback, but also how our systems are doing and performing. And it's important for us to think of these as cross-surface across different devices. So we set out to build shared platforms while allowing flexibility for device-specific tuning, because we all know that user watch behavior on one device varies from another device because the form factors are different. So we need to make sure there's flexibility. At the same time, a lot of the core platforms need to be reusable. So that was the technical part of the approach. So we then launched Google TV on the TV surface. Google TV is also an app on mobile devices. As you can see, it's leveraging common infrastructure. And the idea here is we're able to bring, here you see a screenshot with The Mandalorian. That is an immersive content. So it can actually play the trailer if you move to it. But you see the top picks, which is directly content that you might be interested in from several of our apps. We try to bring up the ones users engage with. And for those users for whom they know which app they work with and they just want to go into that app, we don't stand in their way either. So it's just one click. You can go directly into the app and engage with the content if that's the more comfortable journey. So we are glad to see that reception since we launched back in 2020 has been consistently positive, and also calls out the content-focused design with recommendations being brought into one place as one of the key features consistently. And you can see that we integrate with over 6,500 apps. So really thinking about how do we bring content from these apps to the user's forefront without them having to search or be aware of all these thousands of apps. How can we surface some content that they may not otherwise have found, but they may enjoy? So that still continues to be our focus, constantly refining that and making it simpler and simpler for the users. So let's again go back to what are some emerging trends? What are some other emerging trends beyond the content being brought to the users being an exciting way to simplify the user's journey? So as we discussed earlier, pay TV subscriptions are continuing to shrink. That remains a continuous pattern. At the same time, the total video pie is growing, which is interesting. And we are seeing that streaming is growing this total video pie. And so this gives an opportunity. And the other aspect, if you look at media and entertainment businesses, we see a lot of them are on the move, going beyond their traditional verticals and traditional roles. So you see this move from, I have some examples here that you can find several more examples, is those that are focused on hardware now trying to go into original content, providing content and AVOD. Netflix, which was traditional VOD, now trying to pursue gaming. So you see a lot of media and entertainment businesses going beyond the original portfolio from just hardware or just content producers to seeing what else they can do. And also going beyond their immediate verticals to more newer verticals, like can I bring in live? Can I bring sports programs? Can I engage in gaming? So this is a very important pattern to see. And also another part where diversification is reflected is consumers themselves have a much more diversified portfolio. The average number of streaming apps that a household is subscribed to has gone up significantly. And there is also wide diversity in the type of apps that households are engaging with. And we see this in all our homes all the time. We ourselves are undergoing this transformation. Everything is video. There's a lot of video-based aspects, and some of these patterns, as we know, have been amplified also because of the COVID constraints and flexibilities that have evolved. So even family events, people are leaning into, can we do video conferencing and do family events, even if we are in geographically distributed areas? We are right now in a virtual event, which is also an example of an evolution that is now possible with technology. Even co-watching TV, social watching, social gaming, even basic things like cooking classes, everything is becoming less of a text and information-based and more video and interactive. And interactive video, there's a lot more applications than we would have thought of before. You see some examples here, the workout, working with maybe your tutor or your trainer, and just sitting from the comfort of your home by just finding the trainer and being able to engage with them. On the rightmost, it's even more interesting, where you can even do a virtual try-on. This is a person who's trying to work on their makeup, and you can even see people getting comfortable with even elements like virtual try-on as a new interactive video usage. And streaming video also has a positive ripple effect on influencing other sectors to new behaviors, new opportunities that they may not have considered possible before. And I also see this behavior of millennials, Gen X, where the consumers themselves are much more comfortable with video-based interaction in so many other sectors. And both of these together are opening the doors in new fronts. For example, telehealth. Probably many of us have now experienced some consultation happening using telemedicine or telehealth. where you're able to do a video with your practitioner, and able to get some level of consultation which you would have had to go in person to their office for before. So this has evolved. This has been evolving for a long time, but some of this is amplified again because of some trends that COVID brought in, where people are more comfortable doing it from their home rather than having to go into a crowded clinic or a hospital. And so these things amplify both the comfort of the consumer and the practitioner. So we see a lot of startups or companies going into telehealth, and streaming is playing a core role in making this possible from a technology perspective. And again, this is something all of us can personally probably attest to at this point. Everyday activities like work have changed significantly. And many of these behaviors we think are here, changes are here that may be irreversible, because they have opened the door to much more flexibility for a wide variety of family and home situations. And people are actually choosing and becoming much more comfortable with remote work and remote team members, and being able to still work together and be productive, working towards a common goal. And with this hybrid work environment, of course, the technology again comes into play, which is how do we create workspaces where a group of people can work together as if they were just sitting around each other in one desk area or one bullpen, and collaborate. How do we make sure it's easy to record, to capture notes, to like a real meeting? How do we help make sure there's a whiteboarding experience that is remote and video based? So all of these technologies we think will continue to evolve to make it easier and easier for this remote, again, globally distributed in some cases, workspace. For example, in my team, we have presence in 3 different continents, and we have meetings often where all of us are working in the meeting live and trying to work on a collaborative strategy together. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that experience. So how does video, TV, and streaming play a role there to make it easier, more natural, more productive over time? Learning too is an important area which has become e-learning. Again, was already evolving for a number of years. But the move to online learning, even at schools and universities, and also one-on-one, when you're working with a tutor, with a coach, or even working on group projects together, working on test prep together, all of these have become much more natural as habits now for users of all age groups. And so this is an important pattern to lean into. Again, there are a lot of streaming services, streaming elements, and the same concept of how do you find the right content, find a tutor. All of this is also an important part of the behavior that we need to observe. Gaming is also, we see data that shows that gaming is key to tap into the Gen Z users. And more playing video games, whether as an individual or as groups, is becoming just a natural habit for this generation. And you see the data here of different kinds of streaming engagement and how Gen Z leans towards a strong presence in playing video games, but they also have a strong presence in other forms in which they're engaged on social platforms, in general on the internet, and also to some extent on the shows and movies at home as well. So this is a very comfortable, online friendly generation. And we also see behavioral shifts in millennials as well as Gen X and others in that direction, where everyone's becoming more and more comfortable doing things online, doing more and more non-traditional daily habit things online over time. The other interesting thing is, can you do your shopping from your couch? So think about shopping as entertainment. We see patterns where there are entertainment videos that are used for shopping as a target, reaching consumers with very entertaining videos and engaging that retail experience right from the comfort of your couch. Some markets like China are more mature. We see US probably in many ways is a nascent stages of this taking off as a complete pattern. So it's good to see, good to continue to observe how this works. Again, with the streaming, engaging right from the comfort of your living room, how these kinds of behavior changes over time. We do see a growth in general in online shopping recently. But again, how much of that is also from the comfort of your couch and TV. And we know that with TV, you have remote control. The types of devices that users engage with are different. So if this is indeed a pattern, how do we make this simple, easy for users, and at the same time not disruptive for their natural relaxing experience? So those are the kinds of things to think about. The other angle in terms of who generates the content, there are some really nice, very interesting patterns there as well. So we are seeing non-traditional creators evolve globally. This is a global phenomenon, not just in the US, but both professional creators and amateur creators who are able to generate and share videos that achieve a high level of viral consumption or popularity. And so leaning into even those kinds of non-traditional methods, again, for all the patterns we saw, providing games, social interaction, even shopping. So how do you leverage these influencers for these? This is also a pattern that we continue to see. We expect it to continue to evolve because generating a video and sharing a video has become so much easier than it used to be. So we should continue to expect this to evolve. And these kinds of videos and creators come in many flavors. There are short videos like TikTok, we have YouTube Shorts, where people are just trying to share some ideas, some concepts, or just some videos with each other. There are artists and entertainers who are leaning into, again, the non-traditional kind of content generation. And we see social media influencing, evolving into its own genre of engagement. We see educators who are using these kinds of videos to share with their own groups, but also in general, we see a lot of tutoring and knowledge videos that people are engaging with because they just want to understand a concept better. They want to find information about something better, well beyond the traditional video for entertainment use. Self-help, well-being, health, fitness, these are also areas where we see a lot of both non-traditional and professional creators coming into play. And players in the market continue to expand along the value chain. So you see a lot of distributors or the traditional producers moving into content and even hardware. Aggregators are themselves becoming content creators, trying to acquire or generate original content and invest more and more in original content. People are providing free content services with ads supported. We see people who are, we see entities that are manufacturing hardware or operated devices now going into streaming TV products. So this kind of everybody wants to play in all parts of the value chain. This evolution has been amazing to watch, and this will continue to grow because there is an interest in all of these entities and really leaning into these patterns that we are seeing in how consumers themselves are evolving. And this just makes business sense for all of these evolutions to continue. And we see, again, expansion beyond core verticals, even within streaming, even if they're not going from hardware to content or content to hardware. You see the patterns where entities are going beyond their core verticals, Spotify going from music, core music to music videos, a lot more. Again, everything is going into interactive video and video based a lot more than before. So everyone is leaning into that and also tapping into the gaming, games and other forms, other types of verticals and sports kind of content. So you see there are more adjacencies that they're going into in terms of the verticals they cover. Again, this will also continue to evolve in this direction because users, again, as we discussed at the beginning, are expecting to see more and more of the complex, all kinds of content that I typically use, I want it all in one place. That's where users are also moving their expectations. So we see the industry reacting to that. So with online being more important than ever, You see across all of the generations, millennials and Gen Z clearly very pronounced, much more online and both hybrid than offline. And probably other age groups might gravitate in this fashion too. And Gen Z clearly is feeling much more comfortable online than offline. So with that, and all of the patterns that we just talked about, what do these blurring content lines and the importance of these online communities where there's a lot more social video engagement, what do these mean for us and how do we lean into these patterns? So with Google TV, some of the areas that we saw users sharing feedback in terms of interest as well as engaging in apps with us, we leaned in stronger with live TV. So we have a multi-provider interface. I'm showing this example screenshot, which has Sling TV here. We have multi-providers, so we have YouTube TV, Sling TV, and Pluto as well. And we wanted to still make it easy to find. There are hundreds of pieces of content in the EPG. So we have the traditional EPG layout if you just want to scroll up and down and find your content, but also it's easy to find what's currently on across your providers. So it's easy to get into them if that's what you want to do. So live and then also sports. We recently launched integrations where we were able to bring Olympics content as well as other sports content and Winter Olympics. We're very excited that we were able to build that integration. A lot of Google TV is about bringing in integrations with Google Search, Google Research, Google Photos, Assistant, etc., all bringing that together so that we can provide content that users may find interesting at the moment. So we were glad to bring this in. And also, we have launched with a music video service, and we were able to bring gaming through Stadia app integration into Google TV itself, which involves the device integration with the controller, as well as bringing the app and content. And we try to bring the music videos, sports, live, as well as these different kinds of contents on top of the traditional video to the For You tab, which you can see is the top tab. This screenshot shows the live tab, but if you go to the left click, that's the For You is the top tab you get as soon as you turn the TV on. The idea is we should ideally get users to their content they're interested in right at For You tab. That's the challenge we take on behalf of the users. And so bringing these in has brought in positive reaction from our users. Again, users guide us on where we go, what we give them, and it has been so far received well, so we are glad to see that. Now back to the trends, what should we expect going forward from here? So we talked about this global local pattern at the beginning, then we talked about different kinds of content evolution and content complexity and all the content providers leaning into multiple verticals beyond their original core focus. So where do we go from here? Where are users taking us? What are some trends to watch out for? So all of our homes now are practically like home device ecosystems. So we as users have come to use multiple devices on a typical day, and we want them all to work together. So imagine a time when you're able to sit in the comfort of your living room in front of your TV and able to monitor or control all the devices in your home. That would be really exciting to do, especially as the, again, number and types of devices and their applications continues to expand in the home or any collective device ecosystem. How do we make sure all of this works naturally together? And also with all of these multiple devices that users interact with, whether it's learning or just consuming streaming content, users are expecting continuity on their journey. So that's an important one. Again, to the core value of keeping it simple for users. Also, excuse me. As we discussed earlier, gaming is big. It's really huge among Gen Z and millennials. And how do we tap into this? Again, this involves device integration. This involves bringing the right gaming content. And gaming is not just the only aspect. for them. But gaming is also increasingly being used as a big social vehicle where people are organizing game parties, social gaming where multiple people are playing and chatting at the same time, watching gaming content together, again, in the comfort of their own locations, especially if you think about geographically distributed friend groups or families. This has become an amazing way for people to just hang out together without having to worry about travel and being at the same place at the same time. So this kind of trend is very, very interesting and something that the Gen Z next generations are becoming more and more comfortable in a natural fashion with. And music labels too, beyond the traditional ways of releasing and reaching users, they are also adapting to changing needs from the consumers. How do we invest? They're looking at how do they invest in being part of streaming services, new experiences, leaning into metaverse maybe. So this has created this gravitation towards leaning again into streaming and new forms of metaverse, multi-device engagement from music industry as well. New surfaces are gaining traction. We have AR, VR, which is again over the next few years, is something to closely watch out for. Fitness, gaming, virtual try-on, all these kinds of things involve new surfaces, new devices, new device integrations with TV, including camera devices, AR, VR devices, game controllers, fitness equipment, sports equipment. So all of this, again, these are, you can see that they are starting to gain traction, and it's going to be very important to observe how these trends lead the way and what we solve for consumers. So now, based on these upcoming trends, some of these are in early stages, some of these are already here and well established. How will the shift towards this more active, immersive, 3D user engagement with digital media? And with digital media, it is streaming, interactive video, live, all of those things, and gaming. How will it disrupt the industry? And how can we capitalize on it via streaming and TV as a core surface for streaming? So this is something that all of us should again continue to think about. And with especially the last few patterns we talked about of there being device evolution and device integration with your TV surface, again, how do we make sure it performs? How do we make sure it's leveraging all the bandwidth and the processing power on the devices effectively? And how do we make sure that the content with all of these kinds of interaction doesn't overwhelm the user? How do we still keep it simple, let them indicate their preferences, observe what they generally tend to leverage the devices for, and get them closer to the journeys and the content that they actually want to do. So these are the questions that we're all going to be answering over the next several years. And it's again really, really fascinating to be in the midst of all this evolution and trends and be able to steer it in many ways. So with that, I wanted to share some closing thoughts both on the media ecosystem landscape as well as some learnings from Google TV, some conclusions from that. So the streaming and TV landscape varies greatly across the globe. It's really important to internalize one strategy does not fit all. And we learned this, whether it's about just what kinds of content and content providers are popular, what kinds of viewing behaviors happen in family settings around the world. In addition to that, it's also about what kind of content do we bring in that are culturally relevant and interesting to people around the world. That's really important in terms of designing product inclusion. How do we bring diverse content to the forefront and not just assume that one strategy fits all? Online communities are becoming more and more important, more and more natural habits than ever, especially for the younger generations. But in general as well, online communities are becoming a much more comfortable space for daily habits. And younger generation, we see, are spending a ton of time on online communities, whether it's gaming or shopping or interactive video or other forms, including online learning and group work. Many media companies are already looking beyond their core verticals. This will only get more and more complex and will merge over time. And the metaverse is coming rapidly. How can and how will the TV as a surface play a role there? Some learnings from the Google TV experience so far, and we're always continuing to observe these patterns, trends, and see how we can again play the core role of bringing users to the journeys and content they want, and content providers closer and closer to the users who may not otherwise find their content. So that's always our role. Content is king, and unless we give the content that the users want to lean into and engage, we cannot win the users' hearts. Delighting the user always remains the core. So it's only as long as users are engaged and excited about the product, that's the core important thing for any product to succeed and satisfy users. So it's really important to not lose sight of that. And with all of these, again, millions of pieces of content across thousands and thousands of content providers and probably hundreds of different types of content that we now have, simplicity and ease of use. From a user's perspective, it always needs to be simple to find things that they want to do. So that's still the key. That's really important. And from an architectural perspective, flexible data-driven platform vision, we learned was very critical from the get-go, especially as we looked at cross-surface behavior, trying to optimize what the users best want to do on each surface. It was really important to be able to get the feedback from users, to really leverage their feedback and signals and make sure that we serve users based on what they want. And global local mindset remains critical to scale any product that we want to design for global audiences. All of the patterns we discussed, again, is going to be very geographically diverse as well. So it's really important to have that mindset from the get-go, whether it's developing the business strategy, product strategy, execution, implementation, getting feedback, all of that, the whole cycle, that global local mindset is pretty critical. With that, I wanted to thank Eric and everyone for giving me this opportunity to share some of these exciting trends we are seeing, as well as the journey that's been Google TV. It's a continuing journey, which we're again excited to help both our content providers, partners, as well as users move forward as a platform. With that, I want to open it up for any questions.
You bet. Shobana, that was terrific. And what a great way to start the week with such a terrific overview of the trends that we're seeing and that you at Google TV in particular are seeing in the OTT industry. Terrific presentation and slides. Could you stop sharing your slides while we do Q&A so that the viewers can see us both a little better? And we have a lot of questions, and I'm going to try to combine some because there are some similar themes that come up in the questions. I guess the first one is, could you someone asks if Google TV, Android TV, and YouTube TV are all part of the same platform. I know they're not, but perhaps you could talk about and differentiate among those so that our viewers have a little better understanding of how these things all work together and separately.
Sure. Google TV is the experience that you see. Google TV is built on top of Android TV, the operating system. And Google TV provides the immersive UI. It includes the recommendations, the backend systems, but it is built as an app on Android TV. So that's the distinction between the two. When you think about YouTube or even YouTube TV, Google TV is a platform in which YouTube and YouTube TV are apps, just like other apps like Netflix or HBO Max. So we bring content from YouTube and YouTube TV, just like we bring from Pluto and Sling TV and others that have integrated with Google TV.
Great. We have a number of questions about or from people who are interested in getting their apps on Google TV. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Sure. I think the first place to start, maybe all of the Android TV and Google TV documentation is on the Android developer site as well. So if you just search for that, you'll find all the APIs to integrate with and the functionality you get with it. And we have a dedicated, what's called a DevRel team, a developer relations team. So if you have any support needs or just have questions on the API, you'll be able to easily contact someone from the team to help you through the integrations.
Okay. I know this is not your, you don't work with the operator tier of Android TV. Is there similar documentation for how to get involved with the operator tier available as well?
Yes, it's in fact exactly the same site. So you'll be
Okay.
able to see operator documentation. And typically, once you build Android TV and test with the API recommendations that we provide, you should be able to run. It's compatible on both operator devices as well as OTT and OEMs.
Terrific. Um, can you talk at all about the revenue share that's involved with AVOD and FAST platforms on involved in getting onto the Google TV platform, and how that might differ, or how your approach might differ from other platforms like Roku and Samsung and Amazon Fire, etc.?
I think I'm not sure if this is something that I can share. Maybe someone from the business side may be more qualified, I think, to answer that question.
Okay, fair enough. Um, the next question is about I guess, the longevity of standalone dongles and devices, like Chromecast, I guess. Is there a role long term for standalone devices like that in the market, even in 3 or 4 years? Or is everything moving towards the smart TV, and therefore ultimately you have to have prominence in the TV OS to be relevant?
I think the good news is Android TV and Google TV both. If you're an app developer, you test with them. It's compatible for OEMs, which is smart TVs or OTT sticks as well. We see that market is continuing to be healthy for the OTT stick world as well. Depending, again, there's a wide cost range, both smart TVs and OTT sticks, but we do see the market to be pretty strong on both fronts, especially when you look at it globally.
Okay. Um, there are a number of other questions here that may be more relevant to the business side of things. And I guess what we can do for that is, I've saved all the questions here, and I can forward those to you, Shobana, and perhaps you can help me help people get in touch with folks on the operator side or the business side of the team. One question is, does Google TV have a similar creative program or creator program to what Amazon has with Fire TV?
So currently we don't, I don't know specifics of what you mean by similar to that, but we do support creators, whether you're providing short videos or otherwise. We are able to provide the same technical support in terms of how you can get your content integrated with the Google TV and Android TV platform. Because a lot of what gets your content on the platform is agnostic to whether you're a professional content provider or you're an amateur creator. We have learning videos, all of those can come in to these platforms. In addition, we also have integrations with apps like YouTube and YouTube TV, where we are able to bring creative videos from their platforms into our platforms because of the nature of integration of Google TV. We're able to ingest the video metadata and be able to provide recommendations, personalized recommendations for those kinds of content as well.
Okay, this question is about your bigger picture slides and the industry trends portion of your presentation, and it involves gaming trends. From what you've seen, are the trends in gaming similar both inside and outside the United States, or are there big differences between what's going on in the U.S. and what's going on in the rest of the world?
In terms of gaming, I think the gaming devices like gaming controllers, the popularity and evolution, partly in large part because of the cost, is not the same in all countries. So we do see US and Europe having a lot more adoption at this point, but we do think that this is in many ways an early stage trend from a global perspective, and it will take off. But the cost and the variety of device hardware like the game controllers is just different in each region.
Okay. You mentioned all the different kinds of apps that are on Google TV, learning, fitness, cooking, etc. Someone's asking about religious content. I assume there are religious and faith-based apps on Google TV as well, right?
Yes, there should be, because we don't have restriction based on types of apps. So
Right. And again, that person's wondering how they might get their app on Google TV, and they can just go find those developer documents that you referred to earlier.
exactly.
Terrific.
It's the exact same structure.
Wonderful. Really, all of the rest of the questions from what Shobana and I have talked about before the presentation, are outside her purview. But like I said, I will do my best to get in, to work with Shobana afterwards and get you in touch with the right people to get your questions answered. So we appreciate everyone in the audience taking the time to watch and come up with so many good questions. And Shobana, again, thanks so much for stepping in relatively last minute, but you're also going to be speaking at Streaming Media East. And in fact, it just happened to be that that we'd been talking about speaking at Streaming Media East, which as I said earlier, is going to be in Boston in May. And when our original keynoter was unable to make it, I said, hey, maybe you could do a presentation next week. And it worked out wonderfully. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Eric, you and I have been collaborating for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's always amazing to use any excuse to collaborate again with you. So
Wonderful.
thanks for reaching out. Glad to do this, and I can follow up offline and help you get the responses to the other questions as well. So very, very excited that I got an opportunity to start off this event with the keynote this morning, and enjoy the rest of your week, everyone.
Thanks so much. And the feeling is mutual about collaborating. Thanks again, everyone. We'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about the state of codecs in 2022. The winner for the Amazon gift card for this session is Paul Braun. Paul, you'll want to look for an email at the end of this week or probably early next week once we wrap up this event with more information about that. Thanks, everyone, and we'll hopefully see you at 1 o'clock Eastern.